Hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Neil Pagirigan and I'm happy to introduce today's speaker, Junghwan Bae or Miguel. Miguel is our intern in market research team in SSB. He's currently taking his bachelor's degree in agricultural economics in Seoul National University. His internship program in IRRI is part of the RICA Associate, reinforcing innovation capabilities for agriculture and life science program of Seoul National University. His goal is to be a global agricultural specialist. And for him, being an intern in IRRI is the first step for his goal. Miguel is also a super talented person. He loves to travel, play sports, trek, and sing, especially in Joke night. We are very pleased to have him here today to discuss about the rice preferences, price margins, and constraints of rice value chain actors in Nueva Ecija, Philippines. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Miguel.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation to give me time to have presentation, and thanks for coming. I'm really nervous. And first of all, as you can see in this slide, I will show the results of my survey, the rice preference and price margins and constraints of rice value chain actors in Nueva Ecija, Philippines. Now, I will start the presentation. And this is the outline. My presentation consists of these 4 parts: objectives and activities, findings, and summary. At this part, I will show you my purpose of my presentation. And the activities, I will show you my schedules of Nueva Ecija, my field trip. And findings, this is very important because before coming here, I did not understand the whole value chain in the Philippines. But after traveling and after trip to the Nueva Ecija, I got to know the findings and many implications which helped me. And in summary, and I will show my lives of 7 weeks in the Philippines and many things I will show you. And first of all, my objective is put these 4. The first one is to understand how rice flows from farmers to consumers in Nueva Ecija, Philippines. And the second one is to identify the varietal preference of farmers. And when I studied this one, it was really impressive because there were different preference of farmers as a producer and as a consumer. And I will show the results later. And the third one is to estimate price margins of value chain actors. And this one is really interesting. And even if I didn't find out the exact price margins of the value chain actors, but it was really impressive for me. Also, the final one is to identify constraints of value chain actors. And these constraints, also it is common in Korea. And it is really important for me to find out the constraints of value chain actors in Philippines because it gives me an opportunity to compare to the Korean farmers and Korean wholesalers, and it was really impressive. And this is the simplified model of the rice value chain model in the Philippines. I studied it before going there, and I can draw this picture right before the trip. Actually, before producing the rice, they buy seed, fertilizers, and they buy many inputs before producing. And they put inputs in the farm and they produce the paddy. And they send it to the paddy trader, and the paddy trader send it to the wholesalers. And wholesalers make the paddy to the milled rice using the builder. And after that, they finally give it to the retailer, and retailer give it to the consumers. This is the simplified rice value chain in the Philippines. But I got to know that it is really complicated because some actors have many roles. Like some farmers are not only farmers, but also sometimes petty traders, and sometimes they are wholesalers. And wholesaler also do not only wholesalers, but also petty trader, and some wholesaler have the builders sometimes. And I will show the result of the trip that helped me understand the value chain. And right before going there, I read many materials, readings, and reports. And I saw many concepts like Hall and Tusk, and amylose content 160 and 222 NFA. There are really many things which is really awkward to me, which is unfamiliar to me because I never seen these kinds of things in Korea, and especially these ones are really interesting because as I am social science, my major is social science, and I did not study these kinds of chemical characteristics of rice. But after coming here, it is really important to understand these kinds of chemical characteristics of the rice. Also, it was really unfamiliar to understand what 160 and what is 222. Is this really good? Is this really bad? Actually, before going there, I didn't know what really is, but after the trip, I got to know that it was really important because it has, sometimes it is rumbled and sometimes it is sold as pure varieties, and these kinds of things are really important in rice industry in the Philippines. And it was really interesting to understand what the NFA really is. Also in Korea, there are similar institutions like NFA, but especially the role of NFA in Philippines are a little bit different from the Korea institutions. And what I found in the field is really interesting and really important. And this is what I prepared before going to trip. Before going to trip, I made a big paper which is helpful to use at the focus group discussion. When conducting focus group discussion, I have to prepare these kinds of big paper, and finally I made this one. It helps me to conduct the survey, like in dry season, which varieties did you plant, and these kinds of things were really helpful. And this is the schedule of my trip to Nueva Ecija. At the first day, Monday, February 2nd, I went to the retailers in Muñoz Market. And the second day, Tuesday, February 3rd, I visited farmers in Barangay San Bernardino. San Bernardino, yeah. And afternoon, I met builders in Barangay San Bernardino. And next day, the Wednesday, I went to the retailers in Gimba Market. And afternoon, I interviewed wholesaler in Gimba. And final day, I went to buy pasalubong. Yes, it was really great. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And this is the first, this is what I want to see, what I want to show you. First one is the FGD and individual interview. It conducted at February 3rd, 2015 Tuesday, and it conducted in Barangay San Bernardino, Gimba, Nueva Ecija. And I interviewed 3 households, 3 husband and 3 wife. And I conducted as 2 ways. The first one is focus group discussion, which gathered the farmers and asked the question and got the common answers from the farmers. Also, the individual interview is to ask the individual and got the answer. And the reason why I conduct the FGD and individual interview is the first one, to define and determine farmers' varietal preferences and to understand reasons for farmers' varietal preferences. And third one is to identify their post-harvest problems. And this is the picture of the farmers, 3 households, and yes, they were really kind and they were really good person. They were really good person. And this is the FGD focus group interview. And they were sitting around the table, and when I asked something, and Titalina translated as a Tagalog, and I got the answer and write it in the paper. And this one is the individual interview. I asked some questions to individual, and I got to know the answer. And at the first time, when I asked something, they looked really irritated. They really, oh no, they looked really, they don't have any interest in the interview, but as time passes, they concentrate on what we are doing, and finally they were smiling. And this is the result. The first one I found is the strong tendency to plant certain variety. All of the farmers I interviewed planted NCRC 222, 2030 to 2040, dry season and wet season, because it has a high yielding for them. Also, the second one is the preference gut. As I said before, the farmers are both rice producers and also rice consumers, which means they eat the rice which they produce. And the variety they grow is different from the variety they prefer to consume. I will show it in detail. I got to know that the most preferred top 3 varieties in dry season and wet seasons. I asked them, what varieties do you prefer as a producer and as a consumer? And I got to know that they, as a producer, they prefer NCRC222 and SL8 hybrid and NCRC152 because it has high yielding for them. It means as the high yielding gives them much more income as a producer. But as a consumer, they don't like NCRC222 because, and they like NCRC160 and SL7 hybrid because it is much more delicious and better texture, and they would like to eat much more better quality of the rice. But contrary to previous slide, as you can see in this slide, the least preferred top 3 varieties, and I got to know that something very interesting. The farmers as a producer really like NCRC222 because it has a high yielding, but contrary to previous results, as a consumer, they doesn't like NCRC160 because it has low yield. And as a consumer, they really don't like NCRC222 because it has it is hard after cooling and it does not have good taste. And I concluded that as producer, they prefer NCRC222 for high yield. But as a consumer, they consider eating quality of the rice. And the third one I want to show you is the capital problem. If the father, sorry, farmer, yes. If the farmer sells paddy after drying, they can get 23 to 24 pesos per kilogram. But they usually sell paddy before drying, and they usually earn 19 to 20 pesos per kilogram. And they said there are several reasons to sell paddy before drying. They said the first one is to lack of the drying facilities. They usually said that they don't have much spaces to dry their paddy, and they sell the paddy before drying. And the second one is that the farmers need to pay that as soon as possible to minimize the interest. They usually buy the inputs without payment, which means they delay their payment after their harvesting. So it is much more better to get the money as soon as possible, and they usually sell paddy before drying. And the next one is the income. They said their gross production is 110 to 135 kevans per hectare for one season. and they said 1 kg equals to 55 kilograms. And they said, as I said before, they usually sell paddy before drying and they get 19 to 20 pesos per kilogram. Then I computed it and I got to know that their gross income is 131,381 pesos. And I calculated and their operational costs, like buying some fertilizers and buying some seed, it costs about 81,381 pesos. And finally, as they said, their net income is approximately 50,000 pesos, and their margin for 1 kilogram is about 7.42 pesos. Yes, and I admitted that these figures are too high for their incomes because they did not consider many factors like their family labor and their own labors, and it is really hard for them and for me to consider these whole kinds of factors. But I thought this tribe is really important to understand the approximate their net income, and it was really impressive for me. And I will show you the other things. The first one is the farmers set paddy aside for home consumption, but amount depends on each household. Sometimes it varies from 22 cabins to 55 cabins according to the season and the number of their family members. Also, they have been producing NCRC 222 for a long time because it is high yielding, but they don't prefer this variety for home consumption. As I showed you before, they usually prefer something delicious varieties like NCRC 160, but they usually produce NCRC 222, so they reluctant to eat the RC 222. And after interviewing, and I visited their houses and I saw many interesting things. The farmer's house I visited there was relatively huge, much more bigger than I expected. And the farmer was really proud on his son, and she hang her son's picture on the wall, and she always told me that this is my son and he's a police, and yes, she says certain things. And this was the first time to see the carabao in my lifetime because there were no carabao in Korea, and it was really handsome compared to the Korean cow, and it's much more bigger, and it was really good experience. Also, I visited the traditional house in the Filipino farmers, and it reminded me of my early age in my country. It looks like my grandfather's house, and we also bred the dogs like this house, and yes, and so it was really great. We sometimes killed the dog and we ate it, but yeah, but maybe they don't. Yes. Yes, and this is the end of the farmers, and I will show you the results of my interview of the mill. And this is where this is the mill I visited, and I interviewed the operator in mill, and I asked something, and Italina translated, and I got the answers. And this is the operator, and this is, I'm not sure, he's maybe the other operator or his friends maybe. And this is the simplified model of the milling. If farmer want to make a paddy to a milled rice, they usually get it to the miller, and they receive the milled rice. And after coming there, I got to know that there are several actors around the mill. The first one is, as I showed you before, the operators. And the next one is the farmers. And the operator said the farmer has several roles like this. He has the mill, he has a mill, and he also is the farmer, and he acted as a trader. And he said he has so much money, and I concluded that he's the capitalist. And the mill I visited is a small mill, only service provider, which means that they didn't buy the paddy and build it and sell the paddy rice. They just only provide the service, and that's it. That's all they do. And it was owned by a farmer with 10 hectares, and they hired the operator to operate the system, operate the facility. And I heard that almost 90% of customers are farmers, and among them, 50% for local farmers, and the other 50 from other villages. This means that the farmer from the other villages used to come here regularly and for a long time, and they usually call them as suki in Tagalog, suki. And I knew that the service fee is 2 pesos for milled rice, and it consists of these 3 kinds of things. And the first one is 20% for operator. Operator earn 40 centavos per kilogram, and for running the facilities, it costs 30% for diesel. It costs 60 cents per kilogram. And finally, among the service fee, 50% of the service fee is for owner, and they earn 1 peso per kilogram. And I understood that 1 caban of the paddy consists of these 4 kinds of things. The first one is 50% of milled rice, and the next one is 31% of husk and others, and 18% of bran, and less than 1% of brewer. And one of the interesting things is the recovery can reach up to 70% according to the varieties and drying conditions. And usually the recovery is from 50 to 60%, and I got to know that the 50% is too low, and I knew that usually it is about 60% and maximum 70%. And husk and others, it has low marketability, and it usually used as a fuel for cooking and mulching to prevent the evaporation of the onion farm. But however, the brand has a much more high profitability, especially for piggery. The operator said they usually buy the brand for as 7 pesos per kilogram, and a month later they sell it as 12 pesos per kilogram. And brewer, it is used for feeding chickens and roosters. And I asked him, "What is your problem?" And then he said, I mean, yeah, what is your problem? How can I do it? What do you think of your problem when making your own businesses? And they said these several things. The first one is their physical problem. When they operate the mill, there are many dust around the mill, and they suffer from itchiness from the dust, and they feel hard to breathe. And they said if they have enough money, they would have gotten their own mill because it would give them more income. This means that they really are willing to get this facility to increase their income, but they didn't do that because they didn't have enough money to get these facilities. It means they have demands to have these kinds of facilities. And the next one is wholesaling. I visited 2 wholesalers in Gimba, who is not only wholesaler but also the retailer. And they're the richest actor I met in Nueva Ecija. They had their own retail shop and their own warehouse, which is really gorgeous. I will show you later. And they had their own truck, and they're really rich. And they said their trading volume is at least 50 cabins of milled rice and maximum 30 cabins of milled rice per day. And they said their profit is different when they're wholesaling and when they're retailing. When they wholesale, they get 2 pesos per kilogram, and when they're retailing, they get 1 pesos per kilogram. And the customer who came, the wholesaler, composed of these 2 kinds of consumer. The first one is the consumer who came there to buy the milled rice, and the retailer is to come here to get a sack of rice for their own selling. And this is the picture what we took in the field. And they, as I said before, they had their own retailer shop in front of the shop, and behind them they piled a sack of milled rice for wholesaling. Also, I said, when I saw this building at the first, I thought it was their own houses, but because it was really great, it looks really great, but they said it is their warehouse, which means they stored the milled rice, like this milled rice, this sack of rice in here to prevent decay. And this is the simplified model of the wholesaling. Before making a deal, the agent is really important because they intermediate wholesalers and petty trader and farmers, and they earn 10 cents per kilograms. And after making a deal, 100% of wet paddy, they can get 100% of wet paddy from petty traders or farmers, and then they dry the wet paddy, and it became 78% of dry paddy. And this process is necessary because if the paddy is not dry, and it cannot be milled. And after 78% of dry paddy, wholesaler send it to the miller, and they get 48% of milled rice and maximum 55% of milled rice compared to 100% of wet paddy. And finally, they send it to retail. They sell it to the retailer or customers. And this is their income for one day by wholesaling. They usually get 30 cabins of wet paddy per day, and there are several things they have to pay for buying and getting the wet paddy from the other paddy traders or farmers. The first one is buying paddy. It costs about 28,500 pesos, and their agent fee, as I said, they should pay 150 to agent, the broker, and the delivering fee is about 30 pesos, and when drying, they have to pay 120 pesos. And after that, the building price is about 2,340 pesos, and it costs 23 pesos for delivery. And after that, when they sell the milled rice, they can earn 33,750 pesos a day. I calculated these figures based on average selling price per kilogram. It is 45 pesos, and I computed the profit and the cost, and I finally got to know that their incomes for one day by wholesaling is 2,572 pesos per day. And I also asked them, what is your problem? And they said several things. The first one is that the credit transactions. As I said, they usually make a deal without payment right there, and they usually delayed it because the does not have enough money to pay right away. So they don't get paid, and sometimes retailers don't pay, and sometimes the payments are delayed. And they said the threat of the imported rice. As the amount of imported rice increases, they said that some customers usually buy the imported rice much, and they said it is a threat of the wholesalers. And the last one is the retailer. I visited total 8 retailers, 3 from Munoz and 5 from Kimba Market, and the scale, profit, and the type of retailer are different. The first one is the scale. Their scale is different from each other. Sometimes some retailers sell 2 cabins a day, and some big retailers sell 10 cabins per day. And their profit is also different from the time. And when they get high, they earn 2 pesos per kilogram, and low, they get 1 pesos per kilogram. And there are several types of retailer, as you can see in this picture. Some are only selling rice, and some are with retailing, and some are selling other items. As you can see, this retailer only sells the rice, and they sell some kinds of rice. And this retailer also make up wholesaling businesses. And finally, this retailer sells some other kinds of items. I don't know for sure what it really is, but maybe this is gum or some other items to increase their income. And I organized the price of the rice, and I got to know that there are several kinds of the rice based on the price. The first one is NFA rice. It has 2 prices. The first one is 27 pesos and 32 pesos. And the next one is regular milled rice. Each price range is from 35 to 38 for 40. And the next one is well-milled rice. It is from 38 pesos to 45 pesos. And finally, the long grain, which is high quality rice, its price range from 42 to 48. And I compared the rice based on the low price and the high price, and I organized the characteristics based on the price. Especially in the label, the low price rice does not have their own label. They usually be sold as rumble, like regular milled rice and well-milled rice. And it is really hard to identify what the variety really is. But compared to the low price rice, the high price rice has their own label. Sometimes it has double diamond and Angelica, Jasmine, 160 and 216. And when organizing this picture, I got to know that 160 is really good quality rice. And as you can see in this picture, the difference of the property is really clear. The left one is NFA rice, 27 pesos per kilogram, which is the cheapest rice in the retailer shop. And the right one is RC 160. It is 46 pesos per kilogram. And I will show you the property. The low price rice, NFA rice, has many broken legs. There are many broken legs like this one, and not translucent. It is much more white, and it has impurities. Impurity means it looks very different from each other, and sometimes there are some stones and some other things, and it is not uniform. It looks everything different. But compared to this one, the RC160 has whole grain. As you can see in this one, it has the whole grain, like whole, and its color it's translucent. It's translucent, and it has little and no impurities. It is almost the same and really high purities, and uniform size and shape. It looks everything really the same, and it looks really great compared to this one. And I understand what the NFA really is, and NFA rice visiting there. They said it is the best seller in the retail shop because it is really cheap, and but they admitted that each texture is not so good, but but some customers have no choice but because it is cheap. And I understood that if some retailers want to sell MFA rice, they need license. As you can see in this picture, if some rice retailer who want to handle the NFA rice, they have to have NFA control number, and it is necessary. And one consumer is allowed to buy maximum 5 kilograms at one time. But sometimes some retailers don't want to sell NFA anymore because it makes them really irritated. They said they have to go buy themselves and wait for getting the rice and bring it by themselves using their own transportation. So sometimes they said it is a waste of the time. And fortunately, when I went there, I met an NFA officer in there, and she told me many things. And she said NFA officers check the present condition of the NFA rice every day. And I also asked them, what is your problem? And they said, yes, this was really important. They said retailers sometimes pay high price to buy long grain rice, but sometimes they are cheated by suppliers and they get low quality rice. And sometimes consumers came back and blamed them. It is really make them stress. But some retailers who are also wholesaler hire classifiers to identify the right quality. So they are not swindled anymore. But some retailers are more prone to buy the low quality rice because they don't have ability to identify the quality of the rice they bought. Yes. This is the end of my findings, and I will show you my limitations and what I learned after coming to the IRRI. My limitation is the small number of the value chain actors interviewed. This means that my findings are maybe really meaningful and really impressive for me, but it is indicative of what happens in Nueva Ecija, but does not represent the general situation in the area. But I'm sure that it was really impressive, and I understand many things from my trip, even if the specimen is so small. And what I learned is that I achieved what I want to know. The first one is the rice value chain. There are many actors I didn't know when I studied the book. And while visiting there, I saw many actors by my eyes, and it was really helpful for me to understand the rice value chain. Also, the price margins. As I computed, it has many problems because I didn't consider every factors like labor fees or the other factors, which is really hard for me to find out as a bachelor, just as an intern. But just finding out what it really is was really great and really funny for me. And the problems. Actually, there are less opportunities to interview many actors in the field, especially in the abroad, as foreigners. But my colleagues, and they really helped me to understand the problems of the Philippine rice industry, and this is all I achieved. I want to know. and I got balanced viewpoints. Yes, different perspectives, and this is the end of my presentation. And I will show my impressions. As before coming here, I was just a student, and I was 28 years old. Even if in here I am 26 years old, and I have to prepare many things for the future. But while I majored on culture economics, I like swimming, baseball, and outdoor sports. But I thought many things to my future. And last year, November, I saw the poster in the bulletin board, and there is a chance to go abroad as an intern. And I saw the IRRI the first time in my life. And actually, I didn't know what really is, but after applying for going there, and I understood that the role of the IRRI is really important. I was really happy when I was chosen as the intern of the IRRI as a student of SNU. And before coming here, many people worried about me because the weather is really different and some foods are really awkward. Some like a balot. Yeah, I didn't try it yet, but and sometimes the water. Sometimes I have to be cautious of water because it is unfamiliar for you. And yes, in fact, I experienced the stool test for the first time in my life, and it really makes me crazy. But now I'm okay. And but uh, besides, but I realized there are many impressive things in the Philippines areas. I visited Mountain Pinatubo with my friends. Yeah, my friends. And I tried many delicious food. Yes, honestly, some kinds are not really delicious for me, but almost everything's are really good. And San Miguel, yeah, it was really great. And I went to some gorgeous places in UPLB Fair, and it was really great. Among these kind of things, but what made me really impressive, what made me really funny is my colleagues in my market research team. And I really want to express my appreciation to my market research team, and I will remember everything in my in my lifetime. Thank you for my presentation.
Thank you, Miguel, for that nice presentation. Does anybody have a question for Miguel?
Thank you very much, Miguel.
Thank you.
For a very impressive presentation. I think it's very impressive for a bachelor program that you are following. Could you tell us what are the commonalities and specificities and differences between the rice value chain in Korea and the Philippines?
The difference. Actually, I didn't understand the total value chain in the Korea, but some facilities or some techniques are really different. Because I mean that in Korea, many things are much, how can I say, made the procedure by machine, but sometimes in here, the using machine is not so great. Some many procedures are processed by the labor, and maybe I don't think it's really problem, but it should be better if they can use more machines, and sometimes it would be much more efficient, and I think sometimes it is better.
I'm also Korean, so I can answer a bit. Actually, there are many roles or the role players and actors in Korea, so it's a very similar way. But especially, I guess I would like to comment on ownership of each sectors.
Yes.
So the land owners or builder owners, owner of builders,
Yes.
so their profit in Philippines is quite high, but in Korea it's relatively small because the almost all the facilities for milling rights is owned by government or association farmers. So I guess that this is a very important point to consider. Actually, as a variety developer, I always consider the variety development for farmers and consumers. But this presentation is very, very impressive because I could understand that these actors in the middle of the process is very important. So probably the variety developers also should consider that, how we can increase the benefit of them, each of the components. And that somehow the yield and quality issues are always contrasting. I also noticed that the NCGAS 222 is famous variety for actually nobody. Why? Because even the farmers told that they don't like it, but they should do it. Why? I would like to know that. I would like to know the answer. But for the customers, they prefer the other variety, NCGAS 160. So if you are the policymaker, this is my question now. If you are the policymaker, which variety you will recommend to the farmers to grow?
Maybe hybrid. Yes. I'm not sure because I'm not a specialist of varieties, but as a social scientist, I would like to, how can I say? Maybe I think some varieties should be developed because because some varieties do not have only strengths. Some kinds have weaknesses. So. Could you repeat what is your?
So this is my bad habit. I always talk wrong. If you are a policymaker, maybe you may learn that the farmers prefer which type of variety. Is it a high yield variety or high quality variety? Which one?
Maybe as a farmer, they prefer high yielding varieties. So I don't urge them to change the variety.
Okay.
Yes.
And customers?
And customers?
As a customer, they prefer high quality variety.
Yes.
But in your presentation, I saw that even the farmers also told that when they consume their own variety, they actually didn't like it.
Yes. Yes.
So that means the value of the rice per kilogram or per hectare could be different, right? So why we, like me, the variety developers, we always consider the abiotic stress, biotic stress, resistance, and to increase the yield, to get to overcome the yield gap, to increase more and more yield. But actually, I couldn't find that they are really positive to that, personally or individually.
Yes.
So, in this situation, if you are a policymaker, so which kind of type of variety you will recommend to the farmers to grow?
Maybe I will recommend something has better taste, and much more high loading, and yes, I will recommend that kinds of varieties, even if it is not existed.
First of all, congratulations for doing such a very detailed study of the marketing chain. I'm a little bit late, so I'm not sure if you have presented it. Did you estimate the total price margin from the farmer to the consumer? How much? Because you indicated by actor, but the total price margin from the farmer to the consumer? Like, say, how much they buy it per
Yes.
kaban.
Yes.
That could be wet paddy or dry paddy, and how much they sell it by wholesale price. Of course, you have to convert.
Yes.
The dry paddy should be expressed in milled rice, and then, or vice versa. Did you do an estimate?
Actually, I estimated it before, right before last week, but I removed it because it is really complicated, and sometimes the figure is not correct. I mean, I thought that kinds of price margin represent every situation as a figure, but it was not correct. Sometimes the margin of the farmer is much bigger than wholesalers in my calculation. So
No, what I mean is margin total
yes.
from farmer to consumer.
consumer.
So that includes the margin of wholesaler, the margin of miller,
Yes.
the margin of retailer. Because you give the margin by actor, but you did not give the
Total, yes.
marketing margin from farmer to consumer, or the price sold by retailer direct to the person.
Yes.
So it's much simpler actually
Yes.
than computing margin by each actor.
You mean that I should collect the price margin?
So you can just add because you have the retail price
Yes.
and you have the farm price. So if you subtract, that's your margin per
Yes,
day.
yes.
Just something that you can calculate easily from your
Yes.
From there you can see what is the missing link,
Yes.
because you were able to get the margin for wholesaler, the one you presented for retailer, and you have presented for miller. So you will see the real price margin. Did you do that? Because you have a very interesting data set, so I'm sure you can do that from your
Yes.
data set.
Yeah. Maybe I will do that later. Yes.
I'll just make a comment about what you mentioned about the difference in the why the farmers are selecting higher yield instead of the consumption. And I think the reason for that is that they really don't get a big price difference between the lower quality rice and the higher quality rice, the farmers. So it does not translate so much difference in the farm gate price. It does in the retail price. So there's a big difference, like we have 27 for the really low quality rice and we have like 46, 48 for the high quality rice per kilo. But at the farm level, the price difference is not so much. So there's really no incentive for farmers to grow the higher quality rice because they will get higher income producing more rice that are of lower quality. I think that's why farmers still grow the rice with high yielding even if they don't like to eat it.
Recently I have read the paper about marketing rice in Nigeria, and it's about pricing rice back, where that some of the rice grain is damaged by insects. How do they inspect damaged grains in this value chain?
How do they
Inspect damaged grain. Have you ever heard about the inspection of the grains in the process from farmer to the whole the retailers?
the retailers? Actually, it was not able to find out because I have so many limitations.
So that's not the major issue.
Major issue.
It's not the major issue. Inspecting not the grain quality in terms of the taste and so on, but the damage.
Yes.
That's not the big issue. That's not.
Yes, that's not it.
Okay. So if you still have more questions for Miguel, you can talk to him after the seminar. So for that, let's give him a round of applause.